होगा तुमसे प्यारा कौन, हमको तो तुमसे है, hey Kanchi. Okay, so let's start. Act 4, Scene 2 of Macbeth. We have seen in the Scene 1 of Act 4 that Macbeth goes and meets the three witches to know about more prophecies, what is in store for him. And at the end of that particular scene, he seems to be feeling rather confident because of the nature of the prophecies, though he does feel a little concerned and worried as a result of the different apparitions that he sees. Okay, now in Act 4, Scene 2, we will be introduced to new characters, and this is a particularly violent and dramatic scene in the context of what happens in this particular play in the second half. Okay, so let's get started with Act 4, Scene 2. Keep your textbook with you, keep your notebook with you, keep a pen with you so that you can take notes simultaneously. Okay, so this particular scene takes place in Macduff's castle, which is in Fife. Okay, so that's where this particular scene is taking place. Lady Macduff, now she is the new character who has been introduced. She is the wife of Macduff, who is the Thane of Fife. What had he done to make him fly the land? So it introduces both her and her son, and she is in conversation with Ross, who is her cousin and also a messenger. So Lady Macduff asks, what did he do that made him flee this land? Flee this land, that is referring to Scotland, and go off to England. That is something which we learn at the end of the first scene of Act 4. Lennox conveying the message that had been conveyed, that had been brought. Ross says, you must have patience, ma'am. Lady Macduff, he had none. His flight was madness. When our actions do not, our fears do make us traitors. So she says that he had no patience, referring to her husband. He had no patience at all. Okay. His flight was madness. His fleeing away. Flight means his decision to flee Scotland was an act of madness. When our actions do not, our fears do make us traitors. That even if we are not actually committing an act of treason, even if we are not actually traitors, our fear that made him flee makes us look like traitors. You know, we may not be guilty, but the manner in which we act, if that makes us guilty, that's also equally bad. Ross says, you know not whether it was his wisdom or his fear. So Ross is not willing to sit in judgment on what Macduff has done in deciding to escape from Scotland and go away to England. So he says, you do not know whether it was an act of wisdom, an act of intelligence, a wise act, or whether it was fear that made him escape from Scotland. Lady Macduff says, wisdom? To leave his wife, to leave his babes, his mansion, and his titles in a place from whence himself does fly? So she says, wisdom. So she is kind of conveying an scorn. So she's conveying scorn in the sense that she's very scornful of his decision to fly away, leaving behind his entire family at Fife. So she says, wisdom, how could it be wise to leave back his wife, his children, his house, mansion as his house, and his hereditary possessions, titles referring to hereditary possessions. Please make a note, in a place where he himself has fled from. What's the point of leaving all of us here? Me, his children, his house, and his hereditary possessions from where he has himself fled. And then she says, he does not love us. He does not love us. So it's a very emphatic statement that Lady Macduff is making. He wants a natural touch. So she says, he wants a natural touch. For the poor wren, the most diminutive of birds will fight her young ones in her nest against the owl. So now there is this use of bird imagery, talking about the owl and talking about the wren. So she says that he does not love us. He wants the natural touch. Now, wants means found wanting. That is, he's lacking in that. So he lacks the natural instinct to protect his family. He's found wanting in the natural instinct to the natural instinct of a husband and a father should be that to protect his family. And Macduff, he says, is found lacking in it, found wanting in it. He is lacking in that particular instinct. For the poor wren, so she says, even the poor wren, which is the most small and the most diminutive of birds, the smallest and the tiniest of birds, even the poor wren will actually fight against the owl when the owl threatens the young ones of the wren in the nest. When the owl comes to kind of eat up the young ones of the wren, even the tiny wren will actually fight. And look at Macduff, he's worse off than the poor wren. So this is an interesting comparison that she is making. This can come as a reasoning question, that Lady Macduff is angry with this thing, or Lady Macduff compares him. She feels that poor wren, even the wren is better than Macduff, because you should be able to answer that based on the explanation that I have just provided. So while you're doing it, please keep making notes like that so that, you're constantly also thinking in terms of reasoning questions and MCQs. That's a very good way of understanding the text. And since I keep repeating, it also acts as a revision. All is the fear and nothing is the love. So she says that Macduff's decision to run away has everything to do with fear and nothing to do with love. So she is being extremely critical of the manner in which Macduff has abdicated, in her opinion, abdicated his responsibility towards his family. As little is the wisdom where the flight so runs against all reason. So she says, and since flight means to run away, to flee away, is contrary to reason. Runs against means is against any kind of reasonable kind of conduct, reasonable kind of behavior. I believe it has got nothing to do with wisdom. So she is completely trashing Ross's defense that he may have run away because of some wise thought instead of just fear. He's giving both possibilities. So she's trashing wisdom and says it's nothing to do with wisdom, but everything to do with fear. And the fact that he doesn't love his family. Ross says, my dearest cousin, I pray you, school yourself. So he says, my dearest cousin, I beg you to control yourself. School yourself means please control your emotions. Okay. But for your husband, he is noble, wise, judicious, and best knows the fits of the season. So he says that your husband is noble, he's wise, he's judicious, and he best knows, he understands the current political situation of unrest. Fits of the season refers to the political unrest, because they are under threat from Macbeth, and it actually comes true. So he understands the political unrest. So I dare not speak much further. I do not say anything more than this. But cruel are the times when we are traitors and we do not know ourselves, when we hold rumor from what we fear. So he says, I don't dare to say anything more than this, but times are bad when people are labeled as traitors. When we are traitors, people label someone as traitors and we have no idea why. It's like, even you may have encountered this in your school atmosphere when something is said about you and you have no idea why is something like that being said about you, because you do not even think like that, right? So people have a bad habit of labeling because of their own sense of envy, jealousy, insecurity. They decide to label someone as something, whereas the truth would be something else entirely, right? So he says that times are bad when people are labeled as traitors and have no idea why they are being labeled as traitors. And in such times, okay, when we hold and we do not know ourselves, when we hold rumor from what we fear, yet know not what we fear, but float upon a wild and violent sea, each way and move. So he says, in such times, we believe rumors out of fear, but we do not even know what we are afraid of. We believe in those rumors, but we do not know what we are really afraid of. It is being tossed, and now it is the sea imagery that is being brought in by Shakespeare. He says that it is being tossed about like upon a wild and violent sea, okay, in every direction and getting nowhere. The rumors, etc., are being tossed about. Okay, and the fact that it is resulting in whatever fear that she's talking about, right? So we believe rumors out of fear, right? But we do not know what we are really afraid of. I take my leave of you, shall not be long, but I will be here again. Things at the worst will cease, or else climb upward to what they were before. My pretty cousin, blessing upon you. So he says, I must leave now, but it won't be long before I return. So I will return pretty soon. When things seem to be at their worst, things will only take a turn for the better. Climb upward means they will only get better. They say, no, if you have scored 0 out of 10, from here you can only get better. Even to get scored 2 marks will be an improvement over your original score, right? So that's what he says, that things will only get better from here, because now things are at their lowest ever ebb. Then he turns to the boy, the son of Lady Macduff, the Macduffs. He says, my pretty cousin, my blessing, my cousin, I give my, they refer to each other as cousin. I don't know why, but it could be safe to assume that he is in some way related to Lady Macduff. Fathered he is, and yet he is fatherless. Again, an extremely important line. Okay, this is a very important line. And please remember the whole concept of sons. You had Duncan's son, Malcolm, and Donalbain. Malcolm, of course, will come back in the second half of the play in order to take revenge on Macbeth. Then you have Banquo and his son. Banquo gets killed, Fleance doesn't get killed. Then you have this particular young child of Macduff. So you have the father-son imagery quite a bit. And in that context, so if you get something like this, you should be able to kind of pinpoint the different father-son relationships that have been used by William Shakespeare in this particular play. So Ross says, Lady Macbeth says that he has a father, yet he is fatherless. I am so much a fool. Should I stay longer? It should be my disgrace and your discomfort. I take my leave at once. So Ross says that if I stay longer, I will disgrace myself and cause you discomfort by crying. So much a fool means that, I will disgrace you by crying because she's wanting to kind of shed tears. I must leave now. And Ross exits then. Lady Macduff says, Sirrah, your father is dead. And what you will do now, how will you live? So she says that Sirrah is an affectionate term which has been used for boys. And she tells him that your father is dead. And what will you do now? How will you live? As birds do, mother. So he says, I will live the way birds do. Lady Macbeth says, what? With worms and flies? So she says that, will you eat worms and flies? Son, with what I get, I mean, and so do they. So he said, I will live on whatever I get, just like the birds do. They also survive on whatever they manage to get. Poor bird, thou wouldst never fear the net nor lime, the pitfall nor the gin. So Lady Macbeth, again, continuing with the bird imagery, she says you would be a very pitiful bird, poor bird, someone who would arouse pity. You would not know how to be wary, how you wouldn't know how to kind of avoid and be wary and be cautious of the net trap or the lime. Both are, lime is a sticky substance which is used to trap birds. They get stuck there, their legs get stuck there, they pause, and they are not able to fly. That's how the hunters trap the birds. So you wouldn't know, if you're talking about like a bird, you would be such a poor and a pitiful bird that you would not know how to escape the net or escape the line. Okay, so that's how you would get trapped out there. Son, he says, so it is a pitfall. When you get trapped, it is like a pitfall. Why should I, mother? Poor birds, they are not set for. My father is not dead for all your sayings. So son says, why should I fear them, mother? Hunters do not try to catch pitiful birds. Okay, they are not, they would be, they would not be interested in pitiful birds like me. No matter what you say, I think my father is not dead. Lady Macduff says, yes, he is dead. How will thou do for a father? What will you do for a father? Because yes, he is indeed dead. Son says, nay. How will you do for a husband? What will you do for a husband? Son's Lady Macbeth says, I can buy me 20 at any market. I can buy 20 husbands at any market. So it obviously, she comes from that kind of a family, which is a royal kind of a family. I mean, a well-off family, maybe. Son says, then you will buy them to sell again. So he says, if so, will you be buying them to sell them again? Lady Macbeth says, thou speakest with all thy wit, and yet in faith with wit enough for thee. You talk with all your intelligence, wit as in intelligence, yet truly your intelligence is that only of a child. Son says, was my father a traitor, mother? So, he's asking a question whether Macduff was a traitor. So Lady Macbeth says, yes, he was. What is a traitor? Why? One that swears and lies. Anyone who makes a promise and lies and breaks it is a traitor. Someone who swears as in makes a promise and breaks it subsequently is a traitor. And be all traitors that do so. And is everyone who makes a promise and lies, is a traitor? So he's asking questions and he wants to know what really defines a traitor. Lady Macduff says, everyone, and be all traitors do so. And should everyone so son says that is everyone who makes a promise and lies a traitor. Lady Macduff says everyone who does that is a traitor and must be hanged. Okay, must be hanged. And must they all be hanged that swear and lie? That everyone who swears, promises and lies and breaks it should be hanged? Lady Macduff says, yes, everyone. Who must hang them? The honest men. Then the liars and the swearers are fools, for there are liars and swearers enough to beat the honest men and hang up them. So the son says, and look at his worldview. His perspective is that all the liars and the people who take the oath, who make the promises, are fools, because there are enough liars and oath takers to defeat the honest and the truthful men and hang them instead of getting hung themselves. So he's kind of giving a different point of view. And Lady Macduff finds it very amusing. Now, God help thee, poor monkey. How will thou do for a father? So she says, heaven help you for saying that, you my poor little monkey. And then she's sad again and she says, what will you do for a father? If he were dead, you would weep for him. If you would not, it were a good sign. So the son says that if he was indeed dead, you would be weeping for him. If you are not weeping, it's a good sign that I will soon have a new father. Okay. Lady Macduff says, poor prattler, how thou talkest. Silly chatterer, how you are talking. At that time, a messenger enters. Bless you, fair dame. I am not to you known, though in your state of honor I am perfect. I doubt some danger does approach you nearly. If you will take a homely man's advice, be not found here. So the messenger says that you do not know me, but I am aware of your high social rank. That is, I am aware of what you are. The state of honor means I am aware of your high rank. That you are the wife of Lady of Macduff. You are Lady Macduff. I'm afraid something dangerous is approaching you. Some kind of danger is coming towards you. If you will take a homely man's advice, that is, if you will take a simple man's advice. Homely means someone who is not of very high rank. So if you would take the advice of a simple man like me, I would advise you to get out of here. Be not found here means move out of here. You should not be found here. Hence with your little ones, along with your children, to fright you thus, methinks I am too savage. So he says, I feel that I am very cruel and savage. Okay, cruel and savage to be scaring you like this, but to do worse to you were fell cruelty. But if I do not advise you like this, that would be actually much worse, because that would mean that you would be face to face with danger. So it would be in your interest to go away from here with your children. which is too nigh your person. Heaven preserve you, I dare abide no longer. So heaven help you. Preserve means heaven help you. I do not dare to stay here any longer. And he exits. So that's what the message he has conveyed. At that time, Lady Macduff says, whither should I fly? Where should I escape to? I have not done anything wrong. I have done no harm means I have not done any wrong to anyone. Why should I escape? Where should I escape to? But I remember now I am in this earthly world. I remember now that I am now here on this earth, where to do harm is often laudable, where doing evil is actually praised. Laudable means something which is praised. If you do evil, it is actually considered worthy of praise. To do good sometimes accounted dangerous folly, whereas to doing good is considered to be doing a dangerous and a foolish mistake. Dangerous and a foolish mistake. So you see the inversion of the traditional ways of looking at good and evil. If you do good, it is considered to be doing a dangerous, foolish mistake. If you do evil, it is considered worthy of praise. It is considered, something positive. So why then, alas, do I put up with that womanly defense to say I have done no harm? So why should I make this womanly defense that I have not done no harm? Because that's not going to win me any brownie points. That is not going to make me safe right now. At that point in time, the murderers enter, and then she says, what are these men? Who are these faces? Means who are these men who have entered abruptly? Where is your husband? I hope in no place so unsanctified where such as thou mayest find him. So Lady Macduff says, I hope he's not in any place which is as disgraceful that men like you can find him. I hope he's not in such a disgraceful place where men like you can find him. So she's being confrontationist in her attitude, in the way she responds, in her response. He's a traitor. The son says, you lie, you shaggy haired villain. Shaggy hair is where the hair is falling over the ears, almost like a dog. The first murderer says, what you egg, you little fool. Egg means, you are the offspring of Macduff, and and stabs him. Says, young fry of treachery, means you young son of a traitor. Young son of a traitor. So he kills Macduff's young son. Son, he has killed me, mother, run away, I pray you. So he says, he has killed me, mother, run away, I beg you. So Lady Macduff exits, crying murder, and the murderers follow her. So this is a dramatic and a violent scene in which the son is killed. We saw Banquo getting killed, but the son escaping. But here, Macduff's son gets killed while he's not here, and the wife runs away in order to save her own life. We will find out later what really happens to Lady Macduff, whether she manages to escape or whether the murderers manage to catch her and kill her. I'll now see you in Act 4, Scene 3, which is a very long scene, which kinds of sets the tone for what will eventually follow in the last act of the play in Act 5. So that is something which is going to be quite dramatic. A lot of dialogue which will take place in Act 4, Scene 3. So I'll see you then. I hope till here everything is absolutely clear. Tata, bye.